to a very, very media club focused episode of This Podcast is for Nerds. And Calvin, you're looking kind of weird today. I don't know, you're taller, you have less hair slightly.
Far less hair.
So Calvin isn't with us today. He was feeling under the weather and didn't want to get the rest of us sick in the studio. So we have special guest Kiefer with us here today, who you actually won't meet until an episode after this. So don't worry about that. It's fine. We're here to do Media Club, and we're here to party. So
super in. Thanks for having me again.
No problem. Actually, yeah, again and for the first time.
Again and for the first time, yeah.
What was the song that was like that? Once again for the first time.
Oh, man.
You know it's something like that. The lyrics aren't
exact.
exact.
Pop song. Some just like stereotypical trite like pop song. Absolutely. Meet you again
for the first time.
The worst.
Well, first time, last time. What's your Instagram handle so people can find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Better Mousetrap Guitars, also on Facebook for the same name. Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. Kiefer's a movie buff, music buff, honestly, like everything kind of buff. He's a guitar builder, bass builder. You'll hear more about that in a later episode. But for now, we're going to dive on into the next Knives Out movie, which is The Glass Onion. Kiefer, how'd you like this movie? So usually we start this off with like a non-spoiler rating, 0 out of 10 or 0 out of 5, and then kind of like give a little bit of feedback of like why you rated it that way versus other things like that. So
I really enjoyed it. I really loved the first Knives Out flick. The cast, the way that everything was shot, the way that everything kind of came together in the end. I absolutely loved it. So I had honestly pretty high expectations coming in for this, and I think it absolutely delivered. I think I'd give it a solid 4 strings out of 5, if you will. But yeah, I thought the way that the story kind of came together, how everything was framed, again, just really great writing, great directing, great cast. Really enjoyed it.
How did you rate the first one? I'm curious now, because if this was a 4 strings out of 5.
Ooh, we're gonna go. That might be a little bit. We might have to go like 4.5. I think.
Interesting. Okay.
I did like the first one a little bit more than this. I still thought I like the Benoit Blanc character. Like Daniel Craig is just spectacular in this role. But yeah, I would say definitely carrying on the torch. But I like the first one a little bit more.
Okay.
Because it was like, I don't know, without spoiling anything. I think.
Oh no! If someone hasn't seen the first one yet, then that's spoiler territory for Glass Onion, Knives Out in general. If you haven't seen that movie yet, it's been 4 years. Go watch it.
Oh, for the original Knives Out, yeah, it's been a while.
So unfortunately, that's on you. So
yeah, I think the way the payoff kind of happened in the original versus kind of how everything pans out for Glass Onion, I liked that structure a little bit better.
Okay.
But overall, I mean, still both great pieces of media.
Okay, absolutely. I'm gonna give this one. If I rated the first one, just because like how I'd look at like everything that comes together to make a movie, but also how fun it was to like go, what's happening? Because I love a good whodunit. I love a good back and forth kind of thing. Like the way the first one ended was just kind of unexpected and wild to me entirely. I'm gonna say that this one kept me guessing in the same way because I kept thinking I could see through the movie itself. Yep. Every time you see a sequel, and we're in sequel hell right now. We're in reboot purgatory. I don't want to see another remake of anything.
Right.
I don't want to. I think we did really badly for a while, but now everyone's kind of like going, okay, we're done.
Can we not remake something else?
The 90s weren't that okay. It's been 30 years, but like, can we stop it? Like, it's
seriously.
So I'm done with all of it. I didn't even start, and I was done. Someone was talking to me last night about, have you seen that 90s show? I was like, no, I have no intention to. For what purpose or reason do I want to?
Like that was my life was the 90s show. Thanks for playing. Like I don't need to relive that. Like the 70s show, sure. Like that was great. I missed that. Awesome.
Yeah.
The 80s show again. Like I kind of lived this. I don't need this.
I don't think that one had a chance to even get started. I remember seeing it come on after that 70s show started. And I was like, wow, we're doing every decade now. Yep. And I was like in middle or high school at the time. And I was like, what's the point? And then it got canceled immediately. Yep. So anyway, my point, I'll give this one a 4.5 out of 5. The first one I'll give a 5 out of 5. So I have to I'll have to do that just because of it takes a hit only because it's hard to even, I don't know.
I think for me, there wasn't as much to learn. I think what I really enjoyed about the first Knives Out flick was learning the character of Benoit Blanc. Like, we know kind of coming in that he's this amazing, problem-solving detective sleuth, but I thought that was the exposition of that and how they did that. I think that's, for me, what carried that, as that really high kind of point, coming in. There was so much good things to learn about each of the individual characters, and again, the who done it, the Agatha Christie, the Hercule Poirot one, so the Death on the Nile, and then whatever the first one was, the title's escaping me.
Yeah.
But I love this who done it shit.
Yeah.
Just constantly guessing the entire time. Yes.
I would say that I would hit your point on that, but also for the supporting cast in this one, they spell out what their deal is fairly early.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, maybe that's what it is. Because I kept going, so everyone has motive, everyone has reason. It isn't until 3/4 through the movie you go, holy shit.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. That's, whoa. Yeah. I like how every time I thought I figured the movie out, it found a way to just F that up entirely.
You're like, nope, gonna divert here.
Yeah. So 4.5 out of 5 for me, 4 strings out of 5 for Kiefer. And right now we are 6 minutes and 50 seconds into the podcast. We are entering spoiler territory. So if you have not seen either Knives Out movie, I think the first one was just called Knives Out.
Yep,
wasn't it?
just Knives Out.
Okay. Right. That's why yes.
The moral of the story is go watch them now.
Go. We can both see you. Calvin will edit this back where we're going doing this way back and forth. Go watch the movies.
Smash cut from Zach to Matt.
So getting into it, I think I love how they started the movie a lot. I love how they kind of built up each individual character's individual lives and then kind of said how they all know this dude without really getting into too deep of how they got to meet him.
Yeah.
But just the invitation with those puzzles and all of the people from very different walks of life calling each other to be hey, how do you solve this? Because that reminds me a lot of my friend group where we all have very different lives. But we can all kind of oh, what's going on and what's with this thing? So I love how they kind of bridge that out. And I related a lot to Benoit in the beginning when he's in the tub. He's just bored out of his ass and can't do anything.
It was the whole opening sequence with being at the basically peak COVID, March of 2020. Catherine Hahn's character answering the door without a mask, and oh shit, that man.
I love Catherine Hahn so much.
Hit so hard. It was oh my god, I remember this. But the overall malaise of being stuck at home. It's just oh my god, get me the fuck out of this house.
Yeah.
I would give anything to leave right now.
Catherine Hahn, I love so much. Jennifer Barkley, Parks and Rec. That's that whole character persona. Come in, get it done, get it out. That's overall career goals for me. So I don't. As I said last time, I want to be number 8 in the company because if I'm getting called in to handle something, I don't want to have to worry about the feels in the way. I want to just get it done.
Yeah.
So that's the opening salvo was fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean, so there were 2 things too that I really enjoyed about the opening sequence. The stereogram portion of it reminded me of Mallrats. So it's in the back of my head, it's I'm going to see that sailboat today. And the kid's it's a scooter. It's you dumb bastard. That's what's going off in the back of my head because my brain's just IMDb on random. But then secondarily, as a woodworker, I'm looking at all this and I'm wow, this is beautiful. I love all of this. This is great. A woodworker and an engineer and a lover of puzzles.
Right.
This is all so great.
So did it kind of crush you when Janelle Monáe's character just wrecked that box beat?
She's just looking at it and they cut back to her with the safety glasses and the hammer and I'm oh no! Just gave that thing hell.
It did show a really interesting contrast though, because everyone else had this lavish life of something.
Yep.
And she was the only one kind of sitting, I wouldn't say in a poverty-stricken house, but not at a party, not in some wide, bright, wide open. So even just the composition of that scene really drove home that something here is different.
Yeah.
And then how she took apart the box is someone here is pissed off, but still knows this guy.
Yeah.
So
what is going on with the juxtaposition of those two groups?
Absolutely. It made it like, okay, that drew me in. It's like, okay, what do we, cause number twos of movies generally historically are not great.
Yeah. It's, and especially like we kind of both had kind of copped to, like, how like strong that first Knives Out flick was with everything that movie did. Like,
oh yeah,
it was just wow. Okay, well, what are you gonna do? Like, how do you top that, or how do you try to meet that again?
Right. How do you meet it, and how do you meet it in the time period where you have this weird flux of people going back to theaters versus streaming versus like, you know, how do you meet that? How do you match that?
Yeah.
You know, so that's where I was like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm curious and I want to do it.
I can't wait to see what happens next. Yeah, for sure.
So from you mentioned before, you know, you have man of many hats, engineer, musician, things like that.
Yep.
Do you feel like throughout the movie, the score was accurate for how you would have been like to engage as a viewer? So like, did it help bring you into the story? Were some parts that were kind of like threw you off at some points?
I loved what they did like musically with that. And actually, I was doing a little bit of just kind of like snooping through like IMDb, like who did the score. It was actually Rian Johnson.
I knew you were Calvin. I knew it. I knew perfect. Yep. I knew you were going to.
So it was actually Rian Johnson's cousin that did the music work for it.
Oh, okay.
And like for me, like music and the way that a score can underpin things, I think is so important, and it can really help steer and kind of convey things. And like I love recognizing pieces, and actually that was one of the notes that I'd taken. Like after Janelle Monáe's character smashes the box, like Andy's theme plays, and the leitmotif there sounds a lot like Moonlight Sonata from Beethoven. Yep. And like the first time I heard it, I was just like, oh my god, I love it. It's the same key, almost the same notes. I was like, oh, this is so good. But yeah, I thought the way that like there were like mischievous sections or more serious things, I thought just the score and the music work there really punctuated things and like underscored things really nicely.
As we are getting our own punctuation with the kick drum right now. No, that's awesome. I was immediately kind of laughing, and you know, when you get handed a movie where you know there's going to be some sort of dinner theater mystery thing where someone's going to have to solve something,
yep.
Especially for those of us who saw the first movie, go watch the first movie. You automatically try to find any kind of weird, small, innocuous clue early on.
Yes, you're looking at looking over people's shoulders.
Yeah.
Like, well, okay, what were they wearing? What kind of shoes did they have? What kind of footprints are they going to leave? Like the whodunit, like little factors.
Yeah.
Just always looking in the background. And I think that was kind of the cool thing about the first movie too, is there were so many of these beautiful little details, and when they do kind of that like recap smash cut, like to kind of lead you up as Benoit is walking through things, like they'll point back to things. It's like, oh my god, how did I miss that? It was so obvious.
Right. So speaking of which, before we get into like a little more of decomposition of the clues, because what actually made me want to watch this movie was the person who, again, this is a spoiler if you haven't seen it, the actual bad guy and antagonist. My main man, Ed Norton.
Dude. Edward Norton is the man. Like, he's just such an intense, just great character actor. Like, I love what he brings to the screen regardless of what he's in.
Yeah.
I mean, from anything from American History X to Fight Club to this, like,
yeah, I remember laughing because like, man, like if he's gonna be in it, not that it can't be bad. It's just that I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Regardless of the quality of scores, whoever actually like rates this, I'm going to enjoy this because I enjoy whatever he's gonna show up and do something. He did a commercial for Android not long ago, and I was like,
really?
It was either Android or Apple. It was a random TV commercial. He was just in, and I was like,
wait a second, was that Edward Norton?
Was he doing it? And I was like, okay, that looks about right. That's fine. I just think his transition throughout the whole movie, being able to play, I saw little bits of him from Italian Job, little bits of him from Fight Club, little bits of him from, like, I don't know if you noticed the painting that was in his, yeah.
That was one of my notes too, was like he looked like that oil painting of basically the narrator from Fight Club in the Great Room. It was just like, oh, look at that! But that was another, like, not like on top of that, like all of the art that was in the house, like in the bathroom, when Janelle Monáe and Daniel Craig's characters are in the bathroom later in the movie, like there's a Picasso on one wall and a Degas on the other. So like there's so many great pieces of art like through the whole house. It's just like, oh my god, I love this.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a movie I'd watch again, even knowing how everything played out.
Yeah,
it's done so beautifully that I'd watch it again.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was rewatching this for homework, basically for coming in for this,
because some people, for some reason, some people drag you into a podcast to talk about it.
And like rewatching it for homework, I still like. It was funny because like retroactively, you know the twists, you know where things occur, and it's all so remarkably subtle. And like that's why all of this works, because they don't hide anything. It's all in plain sight, and like. During like the smash cut at the end, like, and then this, and then this, and then they did this. I was like, oh, I get to watch it this time. I remember.
Yeah, there's little notes that I remember too that I didn't think about. Where like when they finally explained, we're out of order. It's fine, but this is how we flow in the podcast. We're doing it as we do it.
Yep.
Just the little things like with the different characters, and they said, oh yeah, like you remember when you almost panzer beat in your baby blue Porsche and kind of leaving Andy's house? Yeah, Anderson Cooper's house.
Yeah. I
was like, oh, okay, cool. And again, wouldn't have thought about that because you cut him off so quickly. It's just like, oh yeah, Anderson Cooper. Of course, that's like he's a guy who knows people, so why wouldn't he be there?
Oh yeah.
So did you expect? So going into it, what was the first part of the movie where you kind of went, okay, this maybe not go the way I expected it to go?
The look of absolute dejection on Edward Norton's face when basically Benoit spoils everything, like completely annihilates the entire. So like.
Yep.
Like, so Edward Norton's character is this big pompous asswipe, and he's basically Elon Musk, which I was just
okay. Like, so I wasn't gonna just throw that one out there, but they definitely there's
just so many shots taken.
Definitely modeled that after that.
Yeah. So there's actually another note after that, but like, so Edward Norton's character sets up this big murder mystery weekend. You're gonna solve my murder. All my friends are gonna come, and Benoit manages to take what was supposed to take like a weekend's worth of work and manages to devolve everything into a 2-minute breakdown. And the look of absolute exasperation and just dejection on Edward Norton's face as he sits back down, just like, what the fuck are we gonna do now? Fucking play Yahtzee? Like what? Just the way that he acted that, and this like okay, well, this isn't gonna play out exactly the way that the last one was, because I mean the last one was like who done it until the absolute end. So he's like, okay, well you've had this kind of payoff here,
right?
Now what? So that was kind of interesting to watch that kind of story weave a little bit further on. But that was where I realized that it wasn't going to be the same path that we took on, like the original Knives Out, which like honestly got me jazzed, because I was like, okay, good. They're not following like the same like formulaic like pattern. Like they're going to do something different. So that gives me hope for the subsequent installment that is planned. Apparently, Rian Johnson started writing it actually in November of last year, and it's due out in 2024. So after the first, basically like rampant success, Netflix basically ponied up for 2 more.
Oh wow! Okay,
so,
I did not know that.
Yeah, so I'm pumped. Like, and it sounds like basically Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig are still super interested in carrying on the torch, maybe even beyond that, as long as it sounds like if both of those two get to work together, like they're both in for making like more of these movies.
That sounds awesome, because I definitely am someone who like went back and watched The Italian Job and like all the Ocean series a lot, and there's nothing like that like these days. Like it's kind of like it's done in parody, if anything, and it's not bad. It's just like you kind of see it, and it's not as rewarding to like try to take the puzzle apart, right?
Yes.
So
Exactly.
I think one of my favorite parts of this was the twist where Ed Norton's calls upstairs. Yeah, come talk to me. Let's go to my office. Like, cool. So like, the fuck are you doing here? He's like, what do you mean? He's like, why are you here? He's like, I got a box. No, you didn't. He's like, yes, I did. He's like, so that for me was like, okay. Also, did you suspect the dude the whole time who was just kind of like walking through the house saying I wasn't?
Dude, like, Daryl was the most amazing red herring for this movie, because like he's just there. He's just like, I'm not here. Pay no attention.
And
to me.
exactly, yeah, it's exactly
like,
what.
Is this too convenient? Like, it's got to be him, right?
That was the best part, because he kept saying, "Oh yeah, he's not involved. He's just here working through some stuff." And it's like,
but
come on, man! Like it's got to be him. But he shows up at every weird pivotal moment, so you're like,
oh, I didn't notice that, but yeah, like any kind of like inflection point in the story where it's just like, oh, something else has come to light. Daryl walks through.
and just takes a nod and walks out. It's fantastic.
Hey.
What would you say that? Okay, this is actually be a great one. A little head scratcher. If I make you try to jog the memory through your notes here.
Yep.
Between this movie and the previous one, you gave the previous one like more points. So like, was that 5 out of 5 for the first one, or 4.5 out of the first one?
I think I went 4.5 out of 5.
So what would you change in this one to get that extra bump to either the 0.5 or the full 5? Like, what would have really just kind of like blown your socks off for this?
I think one of the defining things that the first one did, I think for me a little bit better, was the characters I felt like had a little bit more depth.
Okay.
Like all the friends in the Disruptor group in this one, it was all just, oh, so you guys are just shit human beings. And that's kind of the moral of the story. Okay, well, there's that. Whereas I felt like there was some more development, some more kind of involved kind of character building, how the characters were associated with each other. It wasn't just like, and there's this group of friends that's all of these misfits that are together. And it's just like, okay, like when they wrap things up, they started like kind of showing how the friends group kind of came together. They were all just kind of like at the bar, basically. It was like, oh, okay. Like it was almost, I don't want to say out of order from kind of what I would have expected. But yeah, I think like the development and the depth of the characters, it was like, you kind of just realized they were all, sort of maybe the scientist, but I think like all the rest of the characters, like Duke, my God.
I only remember Duke and Whiskey. You're good.
Duke and Whiskey, and then Kate Hudson's character, like they were all just kind of like, just like, oh, so you're a washed up model and you're just a Twitch bro. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Moving on.
I feel like it took a lot of shots at a lot of things and people collectively.
Absolutely. And maybe that's a good thing to kind of point out. Like, it didn't pull any punches. Like, it was like, nope, this is savage for everybody. Yep, these people are all just shit human beings.
And I think one of the things that I definitely didn't notice, and again, performance-wise, or just the phenomenon where you and I talked about it off camera before, where someone who comes off as smart and confident, people assume is smart and confident.
Yeah.
So when Ed Norton keeps saying all these weird words that don't exist, everyone just kind of like, oh, that's just part of his charm or his flair, you know? But that's like one of the defining things that like Benoit uses to rip his ass apart when he's like kind of reveals the whole plot. And it's like you're
just trying to blind us with bullshit. You use all these big flourishy words, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have any substance.
I remember I talked to someone once and I literally asked them a question and they told me a bunch of things about like synergy and I don't know, they wordsmithed the hell out of the answer. I looked at him and go, you didn't say anything.
They gave me a bunch of jargon.
Yeah, I was like, what did you
collaboration buzzwords?
Were you just trying to get me to go away? Because if you don't know, you can just say I don't know.
Yeah,
that's fine. And he just looked at me and he was like surprised that someone caught it. And I was like, well, I asked you, I came with a real problem, and I thought, I wanted some real input for the solution, but you said weird words that really didn't make any sense. Or you're gonna sync on that when we come up from air for the whatever. I don't know. Startup culture's weird.
I was just gonna ask if this was one of our shared previous coworkers, but it sounds like no.
No, it's not. So okay, that makes sense, and I think you make a good point about that too. Whereas like this is a group of friends who like kind of not necessarily rags to riches, but had essentially a rags to riches story. They weren't all doing great. They were all kind of like drinking bar buddies together, and then they all decided to ride the stardom together, and then like not want to. Because it's different when you're trying to inherit. I don't know if you have family drama and dynamic with the first one, versus like we all have a secret to hide and don't want to expose it and get like ruin our life kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is still pretty funny because at the conclusion of the movie, they all decide to like testify or whatever, but that can still like destroy their lives. Like offering his head up on a mantle doesn't like destroy the dynamic of we need to not squeal on each other kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's like, we're going to be able to take him down, but we're probably fucked in the process.
Yeah. And it's like, what do we even do with like Janelle Monáe's? Well, by the way, I loved seeing her on screen again. It's been a while since I've been aware of her being on screen.
Oh,
Janelle Monáe.
This is the first time that I had seen anything that she had done, and I thought like the portrayal of kind of the spoiler alert, like the two characters that she played in this flick, they were such, I would say polar opposites, but they were so vastly different.
Yeah. And
her execution and the feel, the affect, like that she brought for both of these characters, like what they were feeling at the time, just chef's kiss.
Well, I knew her more as a musician. I didn't really know much about her like on screen time. So just seeing her anywhere is awesome because she came up. I'm going to be really bad with this timeline wise, but collaborating, I believe, with like Rick Ross, way early on. And then I just hadn't seen her in a while. So like to see her like kind of pop up and then honestly kick ass was super cool.
Really take a lead role and just smoke it.
Yeah. And then like you said, play two different characters. So again, we're hopping into the spoiler time. How do you even break down the spoilers of this movie? Like how do you even say like what she plays? Okay.
I'm the dude dressed as another dude playing the other dude.
My entire life.
That ain't wrong.
So basically, again, deep spoilers now, but everyone gets invited to this murder mystery. Almost the Elon. Edward Norton's character basically screwed over his business partner and got all this money when he was trying to do some really dangerous stuff that she would allow. So he sued her. All their friends sided with her, and all their friends sided with him, I'm sorry. And they kind of like, he kept funding their projects, which kept them kind of like, shut up, I'll do what you want, but you're going to give me something in return.
Yeah.
She gets screwed over. She has some money. It's not like a lot, but she still has really nice.
It's not Elon Musk money.
Yeah, still a lot of money. So basically, he claims that he came up with this idea for the company, and everyone else was like, oh, yeah, he came up with the company, she didn't, when it was really her. So we kind of find this out throughout the movie. She finds the original napkin where she came up with the idea and said, hey, if you guys don't expose him, I'm going to with this thing.
Yeah.
He goes to the house, kills her, takes the napkin, that kind of thing. But she would have gotten a box, supposedly, because he always invited the core group of friends. But they were all surprised when she actually showed up because of what happened at the trial. He was more surprised because he actually killed her and was confused about why she appeared.
Dude, the way that he played that, like, the look on his face when he sees her coming down the dock was just the ghost of, like, Christmas past. Like, what the fuck?
And I thought they had dated or something. They didn't explain that at all.
At that point, we just knew, okay, this was the group of friends. Like, That's all we knew. That was the only context that we knew at that point. It was just like, ooh, that was an interesting reaction.
And, like, how everyone, like, stopped. And, like, oh, that was a great scene. They were going onto the boat, like, on the, you call it on a boat, a ramp. The boat ramp.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll allow it.
Obviously, I don't sail very often. They all stop and, like, in order, just stop and look at her and, like, just dead face, all of them. And we find out later on in the movie that they all kind of just talk shit to her, like, you shouldn't be here. Why'd you even come? You're here to ruin the party, kind of thing. Like, just backstabby bullshit, really. But her sister, so to the world, she's still alive. Her sister finds out that she had died and was contacted. So her twin sister, dead look-alike, hires Benoit. I didn't want to say Benoit. It feels like I almost said Bonet. Bonet, Benoit, Lisa Bonet, Janelle Monáe. We're going someplace.
Lenny Kravitz. And Khal Drogo.
Yes. Momoa all day.
Yep.
Anyway, welcome to the ADHD segment of our podcast, brought to you by, or not brought to you by, cognitive dissonance.
Today's episode brought to you by cognitive dissonance.
It's funny. I've never actually tried my NPR voice on this. I'm not going to do it just yet, but
it'll be interesting.
So she shows up and hires Benoit because she's like, someone, I don't know what happened, but this is happened to my sister, and I don't know what's going on. Benoit convinces her to play her sister in order to try to help uncover clues about what's going on. At some point in the movie, and it's funny too because even just saying this, we can't even give a proper rundown because there's always so many little hints, like getting handed the hot sauce, getting handed the kombucha, like that kind of thing, like how drunk she got. So kombucha, for those who drink it, like you drink kombucha.
I have.
How much kombucha? It's like usually like 4.5. It's less than like.
So I mean, it varies. Like if you get like non-alcoholic kombucha, it's like supposed to be like somewhere less than a half or like 1% alcohol. Right. But I've had kombucha that is like 8.4%. So I mean, if you are slamming, and that's the kind of weird thing about kombucha is like it doesn't have that kind of overwhelming like alcohol-y taste. So if you get like an 8% IPA, that is a boozy IPA. You know what you're drinking. Whereas kombucha is just vaguely tart. It's refreshing, honestly. Shout out Unity Vibration. But it doesn't taste as boozy, even if it is like crazy high percentage. So I mean, like when she was just slamming that, I was like,
I was laughing so hard when she's like, oh, I'm drinking the kombucha, and Daniel Craig's like, this is Jared Leto's kombucha. This is 9%. This is 9% kombucha. I was like, oh my god, 9%. That's I just thought like on an island, just slamming kombucha
in the sun, just
and running around trying to solve a murder. Like, all of that. Just like...
There's a lot going on.
But there's little things like that kind of play into... Like, there's a point in the movie where someone tries to kill her again to silence her. Because they all have motive to try and do it because they'd lose money from this guy. And you think she's dead. And they play that up pretty well, too.
Yep.
And, oh my god, like, it's... The glass onion... And it's funny, too, because I keep mentioning the glass onion. The glass onion is like a continual... thing of the movie. It's like, oh, it's the name of the bar. It's what Ed Norton's character built the thing off of. But the damn movie itself is an onion because each little layer they rip back.
Yep. Ogres are like onions. They have layers. So
and each one of them stinks.
Right. So actually, there was another glass onion that I missed the first time through that I caught this time.
Okay.
So when they solved the puzzle box, what was the card in?
Oh, damn it.
Another glass onion. And I didn't catch it like until like being able to rewatch it and like look, because I knew, I was like, there's got to be something else that like more subtleties like with this puzzle box that they had. And it was just like, oh, there's a glass onion there. That's another one.
I just thought about it. So we're going to hop around. Going back to the first part of the movie where Janelle's character smashes it.
Yep.
My first thought, and you probably thought it was the same way with the engineering mindset, there's no way that the box she smashed housed all those puzzles because of what came out of it when she hit it.
Oh my god, yeah.
There's no way that it lined up.
That's word. Son of a bitch. Yeah, like especially like knowing like construction techniques or like how all this would have to work. It's just like, there's a lithium-ion battery in there. You're going to start a fire. Like that's where my engineering brain goes. It's just like, oh god damn it, being an engineer ruins so many things.
It does, but it makes it also really fun. You know what it does? It doesn't ruin it for us as much. It ruins it for the people who watch the movies with.
That would never happen. Why did they make the cars blow up? God damn it.
Ballistically, there's no way that you have sparks on ricochets and then also hit the bad guy. I'm sorry.
Funny story about ricochets. We were watching Blue Streak while I was getting tattooed one time.
That's a damn. All of that should be an episode.
Oh my God.
That you just said.
And like the guy that was working on the tattoo doesn't have at the time he didn't have any kind of like firearms, but there were a couple like honestly gun nuts that worked at the shop, and he's like, "Hey Adam, would that sound like would that actually like make that sound?" And Adam's like, "What sound is that?" And almost as if on cue, there was the ricochet sound, and Carlos goes, "That sound." And it's just like, oh yeah, the ricochet sound.
Yeah. That one, and then the other one where, like, I don't know if you noticed, but every time someone pulls a gun out in a TV show, just by pulling out the gun, you hear the gun you'll hear the hammer lock. Yeah, but I watched it. I was watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, actually, the gun nut episode, the first one. No, the one where they.
So, anyways, I started blasting.
No, before that, it was the one where they needed money from the mob because they. They sold all the drugs, and they had to go back and like they all bought guns for some reason. So Charlie and Dean never had a gun. But every time they pulled a gun out, it made that noise of the hammer getting cocked, and it's like that's not how that works. And that's a semi-automatic handgun.
So no need.
What are you doing? So like I just laughed every time they moved the gun around and made that noise. It's like
Another gun inconsistency that I noted when Duke gets out of the pool and fires off a round. There's no fucking way that would work, right? Because like having not I don't own guns. I have fire guns, but anything about again engineering mindset.
Right.
It's just like you just gotta have a fucking pool and was able to fire that. Does that work?
I will say this: it's not impossible, but I didn't get a chance to look at the actual gun type first. Not impossible, not advised.
A lot of back pressure potential.
It really depends on what kind of firearm it is. I mean, you could do some weird stuff with like science wise, not weird, but it's like there's a lot of. I have to go watch the movie again. That's fine. I did love how he had his gun every time though.
Everywhere, and
it's crazy too. Like the things you miss that are like you said are right there in front of you the whole time. Like all of a sudden his gun's gone. Like wait a minute.
Wait, where did? Go.
He always has his gun. Yep. And then just the levels of like manipulation within the group of friends who are being manipulated by the main guy, like with whiskey, for example. Like,
who's playing who?
Oh, dude, it got so like it. Even when they did the reveal of like when Duke was saying, "Oh, so I can be the anchor now," because he found out that she's dead, but she's obviously here.
Yeah.
I'm stoked for the third one. I know there's going to be a third one.
Oh yeah,
I'm stoked now.
Oh dude, absolutely. I think maybe the more that I think about my 4 strings out of 5 rating, I don't. Maybe I was kind of discounting that because like in the original, it was like one mystery that was solved, but in this, I mean, there were kind of 2 murders that were basically solved, plus a not murder that was solved, plus like all of these just kind of like random reveals or random things that ended up occurring. I like the cameos in this. So there were a couple cameos. So like Yo-Yo Ma showing up out of literally nowhere to break down what a fugue is. So it's just like, oh, I love this so fucking much. Or like seeing Fauci on the TV.
Yeah.
Angela Lansbury, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Natasha from American Pie, Steven Sondheim playing Among Us with Daniel Craig as he's sitting in the bath. Like, I don't have any I've never played Among Us, but I know enough about it. Right. Just like that was like, oh god, I love all of this. It's so random, and like that cross section of like random cameos like that he was playing Among Us with. I'm like, that is spectacular.
I loved how they had just the level of like I'll say name dropping, but casually too.
It was subtle. It wasn't just like, and we're gonna parade this cameo appearance.
Yes.
And I mean, and I liked for like Yo-Yo Ma, like especially as a fan of like classical music, like that was kind of a cool one because like that's a very like potentially narrow subset of people that are going to recognize like one of the most famous cellists in the world. Like, oh, that's Yo-Yo Ma. What the hell?
Welcome to the party.
Yep. One last cameo, not on screen, but you heard them. Any idea where I'm going with this?
No.
The Hourly Dong.
Okay.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
God damn it. Are you serious?
Yeah. Yep.
I'd never even thought to, like... That's so good.
Yeah. That was like, oh, I like that a lot.
I was laughing, too, because I was telling someone, like, the other day, like, if I wasn't going to be in a movie, I wouldn't want to be a main character role. I would just want to be, like, the store clerk who's, like, looked over and, like, just went all about my day.
These fucking people. Yep.
That's awesome. I would have never... I have to go back and listen to that now.
The first time it like, because I was really focused on it because I had seen that just before rewatching it yesterday.
Okay.
And I was like, oh god, I gotta listen to that because like normally like voices are one of those things that I can super cue in on, like, oh my god, why do I recognize this voice? So like when Angela Lansbury spoke, when they were playing Among Us, I immediately recognized like Mrs. Potts. Thanks, brain. But like hearing it for the first time, it was just like, oh, it didn't quite sound like him. But like one of the further on like sections in the movie where you hear the Hourly Dong again, I was like, oh yeah, that's absolutely him.
I'm definitely gonna have to check that because I do that same kind of ping, especially with like voice actors and like different endings. I'm like, that was Batman. Like that was Kevin Conroy. That was my Batman.
Exactly. Yep.
Or like when I hear, honestly, I'm gonna get so much crap for forgetting his name right now. Mark Hamill.
Oh, yeah.
I know when my Joker is showing up in something. Like that was my Joker, my Batman. They both were on the. They both played characters on the Venture Brothers.
Oh man.
Yeah. So Kevin Conroy played like a Superman type character, which is hilarious because one of the guys was like, "Hey, so do you know Batman's like get out of my house? Get out of my house."
Oh, that's great.
And then Mark Hamill played, I think someone called like the Clue Clown or something like that.
Oh my
where he like
God.
showed up and he was a clown character for like the whole episode.
That's spectacular. Oh, that's so good. There was a while when we were watching Bob's Burgers. So like I love H. John Benjamin. His voice is so absolutely iconic. But having watched Archer almost religiously before picking up Bob's Burgers, like there was the longest time where I couldn't like turn it off because like it's like Archer's making burgers. This is weird.
Especially when you hear the very same oh my god, just like that is pervasive between every character H. John Benjamin plays. Did you see the episode where like of Archer
the crossover?
Yeah.
Oh my god, so damn good, so funny. Oh,
why are you speaking in Russian? I don't know, Len. Oh, I'm back on the act. Yeah, back. Oh, see, my hands came in. This is what we were doing the whole bus. This is what we want to do. Glass, onion. That was an onion.
it shoots out the top.
What do you want to see for what kind of experience do you want to see, or what is going to be the best practice going forward for what you want to see coming out of the third one?
Oh man, don't change the character. Like I think the delivery of Benoit Blanc and the progression, like don't change that character. It works. It really works. It's not. I think in the first Knives Out it was a little bit like beat you over the head with the polite Southern gentleman, but like this, there were I think a lot more like nuanced kind of things that they did in this one where it was just like, oh, and then we could do this. So like watching his like thought process as the character, watching Daniel Craig's thought process as the character was really, really kind of cool. But I think again, keep the star-studded cast. I mean, is it necessary? Not necessary, but I think it definitely helps. But so like keep the caliber of everything that they do up. Like if they half-ass anything, I think it's gonna be blatantly apparent.
Right.
And I'm not worried about them half-assing it. Like I think Ryan Johnson's done a really great job like on both of these. So like you said, like as soon as I found out that they're doing the third one, oh hell yes. Like, it's one of those like situations, if you've got the same people involved and kind of pushing for that same level of execution, which I'm assuming they would, like, there are very few things I think that I really worry about. I liked, like, again, now that I'm kind of like further discussing this, I think really the two movies for me are almost like on par with each other because they brought different things to the table. Like, the first one was just this amazing twisting, turning, like, single murder mystery. And then this was like 3 different mysteries, or kind of how did they do it kind of things, like all kind of like strung into one interwoven story. So I don't know, like, if there's anything that, like, what do I hope they do? Just keep everything up.
Yeah.
As kind of nebulous and thin as that is. But
no, I mean, it's a real commentary, though, too. Because one thing I was thinking about between the first movie and the second one is the first one, wow. The first movie with the family, obviously there was a huge money factor involved.
Yeah.
This took it up to the top because it was like, not only do we have a lot of money, but to the point of actual, like, it's so fantastical that it can't be disproven, really.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning when he all gave them those like COVID shots, which was hilarious.
Another random cameo during that scene. Ethan Hawke is the dude.
That's who I thought that was. Okay. I was like, this guy looks super familiar, and like, I don't know right now.
Yes. Yeah.
But they took this to the level of fantastical in the sense of, like, this guy was able to rent the Mona Lisa, right?
Yeah.
So it's like keeping in that level of reality, because like most of us we don't have private islands and can't just go fly with our friends to a private island. So like that level of like still being grounded enough to be like feasible, without getting
so outlandish
that it's just like nonsense.
Yeah, you're like, what is this? Yeah. It's like the human condition of like watching all these characters be like, Edward Norton's character was like the linchpin for all of their lives and their livelihood. Like, it wasn't just, I'm set to inherit a bunch of cash. It was just like, well, my political career is done, my science career is done, my career as a model is done, my career is whatever, Twitch bro, rhino horn, take pills.
He's gone anyway.
It's gone. Like I think that was kind of interesting to have it not just be focused solely on like money, but it was like really kind of all of their livelihood. And I mean, can I say altruistically that I wouldn't make that selfish decision? I mean, I'd like to be able to say that, but I mean, push comes to shove, maybe I'm a shit human being.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, it's one of those things where one thing I don't think was really explored was, I guess they did kind of explore it. It's like, if they didn't, like, now that they're planning on turning on him, right?
Yeah.
What does that change? And if they had sided with her in the first place and like kept the company from doing all this dangerous stuff, what was the lack of benefit for not siding with someone who wasn't going to try and like blow up a bunch of people's houses?
Yeah.
With unstable gas. Like, I guess that's the part I'm kind of missing, is like, what was the risk reward for them to, because it was her idea. So like the whole company overall was her idea.
Yeah.
So like if they knew that she was the one, I mean, maybe he like was able to like push the limit, but like having that safe boundary, someone telling you to stop, is important. So like, where was the loss and where's the gain now? Because if he's gone and they testify against him, all those things they tried to avoid can still really easily come to light, especially now that the twin sister knows everything and is alive.
Shit, now what? Exactly. So all bets are off.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing where like the motivating factor for, I guess the first movie had that too, because the family had to deal with a woman that they didn't mistreat, but they didn't treat great.
Yes.
So it's like, now that she has all this thing, that was a great scene in the movie too, where like she's getting, they gave her a blanket and a coffee, and they're looking up, she's looking out at them while they're looking up at her, and it's like, what's
up now?
Yeah. Like, even one of the ladies in the first movie was like, well, you should do the right thing and give us back the money. And it's like,
why don't you go fuck yourself?
That's an interesting concept. The right thing. Okay. Now, how can I ponder that one a little bit? So, yeah. I think that I'm going to be really stoked for the next one. this movie honestly is just too much to unpack in an hour.
Yeah.
Go watch the movie. Like, even what we told you, even knowing what you know, there's still so many different layers to this. The way that I think the execution was absolutely fantastic. Going back, I remember going back and like when I started to unravel the first part that I thought was the end all, I was like, "Whoa, that happened!" And then like they changed the camera angle again for the very last one. You're like, "Oh my god, that's that's fantastic."
Yep.
I think the part that surprised me the most was actually towards the end. Spoiler again, by the way, when she has the napkin, he burns it.
Yep.
And I was like, "Well, fuck."
Yeah. Well, I guess there's that.
Yeah, and then everyone who was afraid, they're like, "Oh, well, we didn't see him burn anything either." Like, they got quiet again. It's like, man,
total shitbirds.
Yeah, I literally at that point was like, "Wow, this movie's already going about like an hour 15. I don't really know what to do
like,
here.
What is there going to be left? Like, holy shit, what are you guys going to do?"
So yeah, I think that the way that ended, and Ed Norton is just just fantastic. Like, still, I mean, I know Mark Ruffalo is awesome. I'm not saying anything against him, but Ed Norton's still my favorite Hulk.
I've actually never seen that Hulk.
Really?
Yeah.
So I liked that one a lot because a couple reasons. Hickson Gracie's in it and it teaches him to try and like control his anger, big jiu-jitsu. But also Lou Ferrigno's in it.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And there's the one point where, like, are you going to watch it? Because I'm not going to tell you the scene if, like, you're going to watch it. But if you're not going to, then not really. This is pre-Marvel Universe. This
is pre-MCU. I don't know that I will watch it, so yeah, I mean, go ahead and...
Sweet. So, at some point, Ed Norton needs to sneak back into the university to get some information, and the security guard is Lou Ferrigno. Oh, so man. He's like, "Hey, man, I need to get here. I have this pizza. Can I please get in?" And he's like, "Look at the pizza." I'm butchering the exchange. He's like, "Okay, you know what? Sneak inside. You're fine." And then, like, he looks at Lou Ferrigno and goes, "Hey, man, just to let you know, you're the man." And I was like, That's two layers. That's 2 layers.
That's so good.
Nobody knows it's 2 layers, but it's 2 layers. Like, you have to know the original Hulk to know it's 2 layers. But I got geeked out about that.
For the children in the audience, Lou Ferrigno played the Incredible Hulk. Let me
translate that for common language here. For those who don't know, Lou Ferrigno is bussin' on God.
Nice.
I don't even know what I just said. He's a badass human being. How about that?
Yeah, that works. Good.
For real. For FR.
Oh man.
Do you go to concerts still too? Like, cause you still jam out. Do you hear all this? Don't you? You hear people going in and using the newer lingo.
Oh my god.
Are you able to keep up with what that?
So fucking old. It was really interesting going back to Toledo or like this past week for a concert, and like I was telling Zach about this earlier, but like going back into Toledo, going to like kind of a dive bar with a stage setting. If you have been to one of those in Toledo, you've been to all of them. So like I was asking the employees, I'm like, so how long has this been, this joint? Like, it's 2007, and I graduated like in 2005. So, but it was still this weirdest deja vu like experience. But like the opening bands, like these guys, maybe were 25, maybe. So I mean, you guys are a solid 15 years younger than I am. So like just listening to them talk, it's like I got most of the vernacular here, but man, there's a lot of shit going on.
I'm just still stoked about it. I'm stoked because like that's the. Like, don't be wrong, it's hilarious to listen to, but it's also one of those things where it's like, we did the same thing. Like,
we're so arrogant to think that we didn't, or to, like, if somebody thinks that we didn't, it's like, oh my god, we're the same fucking way.
Yeah, don't let anyone forget that the word fleek got added to the actual Webster's Merriam-Webster dictionary.
Oh, Christ.
Exactly. That reaction is perfect. Yep. So, the evolution of language is what we hear. We're here on this podcast to talk about the evolution of language here on This Podcast is for Nerds, brought to you by other things that we do and talk about.
This has been your ASMR experience for the day.
Wait, isn't that just like... Calvin's never gonna leave me on an episode by myself again.
We gotta steer you guys to like herding cats. Like you guys bounced all over the place. This is unusual. You know? Sorry, bud.
He's either gonna laugh a ton. He'll laugh a ton. I know you'll laugh a ton at this. And you'll also be like, oh my god, take notes next time. Like Kiefer had notes. I was fine. But once again, thank you, sir, for joining us for the first time and the next time on this podcast for nerds. Check us out on. Actually, you did a local company shout out. Do you know their Unity, the kombucha place?
Oh, Unity Vibration. I think they have an Instagram account. Great kombucha joint here locally in Ipsy. Check them out.
Yep.
Good stuff.
So you can check. You just said the name. So Unity Vibrations.
Yep.
Unity Vibrations. I'm pretty sure like at Unity Vibrations on Instagram, or honestly Google, they'll show up in the website and show everything you need to know. Check Kiefer out at Better Mousetrap Guitars on Instagram, and you said Facebook for you?
Instagram, Facebook, website is still under construction for too long.
We're working on making some video for him, so like we're gonna do that at some point.
There we go.
You know where to find us. This pod is for nerds at This Podcast is for Nerds, and the hashtag TPIFN. Keep an eye out for this episode, subsequent episodes. And if you have anything you want to come out and say to us and hang out, or you want to be a guest even, we can figure that out. So reach out to us on Instagram. Actually, Instagram is the best place to reach out to us too. For now, we're working on getting some more social media stuff up, but you know, lives, work, school, all the fun stuff. But we're still here to party. Thank you once again for joining us, everybody, and have a fantastic day. Maybe a soundboard or something. Pew, pew, pew.
And now for my next number, I'd like to return to the classics.